If we have a smaller IPv4 network, we might not want to or we might not need to run a dynamic routing protocol. Instead, we might opt for static routing. Let's take a look at troubleshooting IPv4 static routing. In this topology on screen, let's see if we can get from R1 to the Fast Ethernet 0/1 interface off of R3. Can I ping 172.16.2.1? It's not looking good so far. Let's give it a moment. No, we are failing. And as part of our troubleshooting, we might ask, do I have a route to get to that destination? Let's do a show IP route command. And we see that we do have a static route. That's what the S means. This is a statically configured route to get to 172.16.2.0/24. By the way, this 1, that's the administrative distance. Remember, the lower the AD, the lower the administrative distance, the more believable a route. If I were running RIP, for example, that has an AD of 120. If RIP and a static route were both telling me how to get to this network, I would believe the static route because it has a lower AD. But this is interesting. It says to get there, we're going to go via this next hop IP address, 172.16.1.2. If you look at the topology, you'll notice that's not the right next hop IP address. I should be pointing to the Fast Ethernet 0/0 interface on R2. How do we fix that? Well, let's go in and get rid of the incorrect static route. Let's say no IP route to 172.16.2.0 with a 24-bit subnet mask. Let's get rid of any route right now we have pointing there. And instead, let's say IP route 172.16.2.0 with a 24-bit subnet mask. Let's give some context-sensitive help here. Notice that I can specify a next hop IP address. I could specify the IP address of R2, or I could specify an egress interface like Fast Ethernet 0/0. Which one should I do? Well, there's a time and place to do each one of these. If you're connected on a point-to-point connection, maybe you've got a serial connection and you're connected via a point-to-point circuit to another router over this point-to-point serial connection. In that case, sure, it would be fine to use the egress interface in your static route. However, we should shy away from doing that if we're on a broadcast network like Ethernet. Well, specifically, Ethernet gives us an issue. With Ethernet, if I were to say Fast Ethernet 0/0, this command would enter, by the way. This is a valid command. However, what the router might do at this point is ARP for the destination IP address of every single packet. We could have an excessive number of ARPs if I specified an egress interface on an Ethernet interface going out. So I don't want to do that because I am going out of an Ethernet interface, Fast Ethernet 0/0. So instead of specifying an egress interface, I'm going to specify a next hop IP address. That'll be much better. Let's specify 10.1.1.2. That's the ingress interface on R2. Let's give some more context-sensitive help, by the way. I want to show you this. Notice that we can set the distance. In other words, the administrative distance for this static route. I showed you a moment ago that the default is 1, but let's say that I wanted to inflate it. I could artificially inflate it to maybe only kick in if our dynamically learned route were to go away. I mentioned RIP earlier. Well, let's think OSPF though. OSPF has an administrative distance of 110. I could set my static route. I could say, you've got an administrative distance of 130. And that way, if OSPF said, here's how you get to that network, and my static route says, no, here's how you get to that network, as long as the OSPF route was still there, we would use it. This could be a backup route for me. I could statically configure a backup route. But by default, it's going to be a 1. Let's enter that. Let's once again check out our IP routing table. Yeah, this time it says to get to this network, this is our next hop. And let's see if it works. Can I now ping 172.16.2.1? Let me just double check, make sure that's the right IP address. It is. Can I ping it? Yes, I can. That's a look at how we can go in and troubleshoot and correct an IPv4 static route.